I have struggled for years trying to understand the outline of the book of Revelation. Now you think that would be easy because it's filled with so many numbers that it ought to outline rather easily. And there are more suggested outlines of the book of Revelation than probably all the other books of the Bible combined. Most books in the Bible are just, there's no option. There's about only one way you can outline it. But the book of Revelation seems to have unlimited ways of outlining. And outlining, of course, is for the purpose of understanding the flow of ideas. And so I struggled with this. And one day, not too long ago, only really a few weeks ago, I was pondering the relationship of Revelation chapter 4 to Revelation chapter 2 and 3. Now, if you're familiar with the book of Revelation, you realize 2 and 3 is about the churches, and chapter 4 just has an entirely new content. It's like there's a break between the two. That doesn't exist in chapters 1 to 2 and 3. 2 and 3 is a unit about a message to the churches. But 1 tells you we're going to write this letter, so there's a connection into 2 and 3 from 1. But when you get to 4, you just simply have John all of a sudden in heaven. And then you have the heavenly throne room scene. And I was pondering that and said, there's got to be a relationship. I mean, this is, this is one document, one book. What is the relationship between these things? Can I get you to pass this around? This is some of my early notes. And as I pondered it around, for whatever reason, I began to associate the book of Revelation with the book of Exodus. I'm not sure why I did that. I'd like to think it's because I'm really creative, but I think I read about it someplace in my, my distant studies, and it hung up back there. And I'm about to take credit for something I didn't actually think of. And just sort of rethought it up. But as I pondered it, I began to see a relationship between the book of Exodus and the book of Revelation. I want to run through it real fast with you. On page 1 there, you see Revelation. Jesus appears to John in Revelation as God appeared to Moses as the I Am in Exodus. Now, if you remember the story of Moses in Exodus, how God appeared to him at the burning bush, identified himself as the great I Am, you will see how now God is appearing to John, identifies himself as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, and really the same titles. That looks interesting. If you go over to chapter 2 and 3 on the next page, you just skip all the Bible verses there. We see in chapter 2 and 3 where God appears to his church in Revelation as he did to the tribes of Israel in Egypt. Remember how Moses was given the command to go to Egypt and tell them, this and this and this. Prophetically describe what's going to happen to the 12 tribes. And so here we have John saying, now send this letter to the 7 churches and communicate with them. I see a parallel there. And if any of you are out there thinking, boy, is he stretching today? I may be. Chapter 4, this is what got me thinking. We have a heavenly throne room scene in Revelation chapter 4. But we also have such a scene on Mount Sinai in the book of Exodus. A revelation of God to Moses. And then we have a revelation of God to John. See, not to everybody, but just these heavenly throne room scenes. And the book of Exodus and Sinai, that was a throne room scene where God appeared in his glorious heavenly vision to Moses. Then we look on to chapter 5. The covenant document. There's a covenant document in Revelation chapter 4. Excuse me, chapter 5. And that is the scroll with the 7 seals. This is the document, really. It actually could have been. I don't know, there's a lot of things it could have been. But this document, this covenant document, is going to serve as the basis for the judgment on Israel at this time. And these breaking of these seals are let loose judgment on the city of Jerusalem and the Israeli community. Well, in fact, there was also a covenant document in the book of Exodus, and that was the Ten Commandments. Both have their covenant document, and both were broken. Remember, Ten Commandments, Moses threw it at the feet of the disobedient community, and was busted in pieces, and he had to go back and do it again. Get another copy. Revelation 16, 6 through 19. Judgments in Egypt, on Egypt in Exodus, and judgments on the new Egypt, that is Israel, in Revelation. Revelation 6 through 19 is about judgments. I mean, every word almost through those many chapters are about God pouring out judgments on the enemy of his enemy. And that enemy he identifies in Revelation as Egypt and Sodom. These are like ugly titles he's given to Jerusalem. And in fact, in the book of Exodus, God pours out judgments, 10 of them, on Egypt, judging the enemies of his people. In both cases, the enemies of God's people are being judged. Revelation 20 through 22. There is a heavenly picture of a promised land flowing with milk and honey in Exodus. That's laid out to the community of faith. You're going to move forward through these judgments and out through the Sinai into the land flowing with milk and honey, and it's pictured as a paradise. Now, interesting, when they got there, it wasn't quite that much of a paradise, but there was actually the potential of this great paradise if they had embraced it by faith. But it was a land flowing with milk and honey, and I thought, yeah, that's where I want to be, all the good stuff is there. Revelation chapter 20 through 22, if you remember how the book ends in the New Jerusalem, it's a land flowing with milk and honey. It's an ideal picture. It may be a picture of the church, ideally, like Israel had a picture of their ideal existence if they would only embrace it. And this could be a picture of the church. If they only embrace it, there will be a new, heavenly, millennial-like hope that's set before the church. Or it could be a picture of eternity. But either way, they both have their lands flowing with milk and honey. So as I pondered the chapters, I thought, this is interesting. I wanted to share that with you. You can also see, as I started in chapter 1, I actually then began to work through chapter 1. God identifies himself in Revelation and in Exodus. The application of the blood is found in both. Our role as kingdom and priest, which are spelled out in both books. Purpose in coming, that is cloud judgment in coming. We have the writer in exile. John is in exile. You have Moses in exile in Midian, you see, having fled for his life. And then you have the light of the world, the lampstands that are mentioned. Now, I only skimmed through chapter 1. There may be more in chapter 1. And there may be more as I get through the other chapters of the book of Revelation. But it appears to me this might be a useful outline. And this was, it'd be surprising how hard it was for me to come up with this over the years. I studied outline after outline after outline. And you know what? They all look good to me. Every one of them. I said, well, this guy's nailed it. He got an excellent. I said, no, he's better than the last guy. And I'm not sure there's not a multifaceted way that as many outlines draw us into many insights into the book of Revelation. Perhaps this is just one of many. Now, where this came from, I don't know, but in the back of my mind the other day, I just pondered this, and it just sort of came, and I wrote it down. And I'm going to work on it some more in the weeks ahead, see if I can flesh it out a bit, and see if it